Heave hi, heave hi, ho, the best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe, Mufferaw Joe. Big Joe Mufferaw paddled in the Mattawa all the way from Ottawa in just one day. Hey, hey.
Hey folks, how's it going, eh? Got a great show for you today. We got Jean-Guy Tremblay, il vient de Quebec, puis il aime Bernie beaucoup. So we're going to see what it's like for a French Canadian living in America and how much he loves Bernie. And I lived in Montreal for 10 years, and if there's one thing I miss about it, it's the way that your air, the way your air moves around in the hair. It's beautiful and windy there. After Jean-Guy, we got Steve Duran, just a buddy of mine, musician, grew up in Ottawa. He was in a bunch of bands. He was in Musla Oftermar's band, Oftermar. And he recently just said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to northern Quebec in the middle of nowhere, bought 100 acres up there. And he just tools around building roads. He's got huskies that eat their own meat. He doesn't have to feed them. Riding motorbikes and skidoos. It looks pretty awesome, this hoser life. And an unfortunately named Rapids is up there that starts with the N word and ends with an Igor word. A much Igor word than the N word. And finally, we've got my buddy F.H. Buckley. He's a Canuck living here in America, and he just wrote a book called The Way Back, Restoring the Promise of America. And I think it's very effective to have a Canadian give a take on American politics, because we don't have this sort of slavery albatross around our necks, so we can sort of do an Alexis de Tocqueville and give a really unbiased, unvarnished look at the country. And I think what you inevitably come to with that is stop being such a wimp, eh? Roll it. Hey, folks, let's talk to a Quebecer. This show has been too English so far. Let's talk to my friend Jean-Guy Tremblay, who's not really my friend. And he is dipping his toes into American politics. He's going to Bernie rallies. He says he's becoming American now because Quebec and America have so much in common now that Bernie is a thing. And here he is, bonding with some Bernie supporters who really seem to enjoy the Quebecois frame of mind.
I do not.
Do you have a job?
It's hard to find a job.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. But how do you get like a phone like that? Because in Quebec, it's very expensive.
Americans are a lot about no one else.
Okay,
That's for sure. Even people for Bernie with many signs wouldn't share any with Jean-Guy.
is it possible you guys have 2 signs? We could have 1. Okay, but you're together. We didn't get any. Can we have 1? We don't have any sign. They didn't give us. No?
OK, on a besoin de parler avec Jean-Guy. Trouvez Jean-Guy. Est-ce qu'il est là? Jean-Guy?
Ouais, je suis ici, mais moi, je peux pas te voir, là. Tu peux m'entendre?
Oui.
OK, tu peux me voir?
Oui, je peux te voir et je peux t'entendre.
OK, moi je te vois pas, là, mais... OK, là, si tu fais pas une blague ou quelque chose comme ça...
Non, c'est pas une blague. Tu peux pas voir mon visage, là?
Non, OK, j'ai pas... Ah, OK, c'est dans le boîte, là. OK, tu mets tes mains comme ça, OK, comme Mike Brown, ici.
Oui, oui. Non, il y a 2 boîtes à Skype. Il y a toi puis moi.
Ben, je sais pas, là, j'ai besoin de dépluguer le téléphone, puis c'est tout là, c'est comme des robots, là, j'utilise pas ça beaucoup, OK?
C'est compliqué. Et tu vois, si Québec a séparé, on connaît qu'il va 2 semaines ou quelque chose, as we figure it out, just like this, but then eventually it's going to be a great country.
If Quebec, ben, yeah, okay, là, the separation, people, with Quebec, it's have long history, it's have long pride, and more important, like Bernie is talk about multiculturalism. Okay, in Quebec, that's the thing. I don't want my culture. Okay, in Quebec, the better culture, that's go to pay the tax for the culture of some guy in Calgary who's veut me faire chialer là for my tax. No, not that.
Il y a la chose que le Canadien ne comprend pas, c'est on est pour l'immigration pour tout le Canada, mais à Québec, non, pas vraiment.
Non. Là, spécialement, là, c'est comme... Ben, on fait-tu, là, le programme en français ou en anglais, là?
C'est la même chose. Je m'en
C'est la même
fous.
chose, mais, okay, I'm gonna do that in English because my message is important for American too, okay? But if you need to, for me to translate, I can do that. No, it's true with the immigration, okay, in Canada, like, we're not racist, okay, but we want to keep the culture of French. We want to make sure everybody speak French. We want to make sure there's nobody open business that's not French. You know, we want to make sure people in parks, they're not speaking English. And we want to keep out, you know, les noirs, là, like the Haitian, because they think, oh, they speak French, they're gonna get a free pass in Quebec. Non, là, c'est pure laine. That's what we're talking
Pure
about.
laine. On voit ça, Parizeau à dire ça quand on fait des séparations. On dit, c'est des immigrés puis des Anglais. Souviens-tu? They ruined the referendum. Quebec was going to separate in 1994, but the immigrants, they ruined it.
Ben, that's it, là. Okay, that's the thing. Is in Quebec, we're proud about it. We have lots of strong culture and the better looking woman. You're gonna see about it too. And everybody they say they want to take a ride on our ass. You know, they're gonna ride.
They want to ride our hats, yeah.
That's it, you know, to the top. And Quebec, là, it's time for them to say no. And even for me as dual citizen, you know, I like you say, I do part-time with my mother in Quebec, and then in des États-Unis, even I can see about it.
And when you're in des États-Unis, you're liking Bernie.
Yeah, that's it.
And what is Bernie trying to bring the health care that we have in Quebec down to des États-Unis?
That's it, okay? Like people, they're afraid of that. They go like, oh, see socialism, tabarnak, we can't have that, you know. But for like in Quebec, we know we have that for a long time, okay? And like for me, I have a back problem in Quebec. You know, I get my MRI about 14 months. They fix me. I don't pay, you know, no problem. I still walk a bit funny, but that's it. In des États-Unis, là, they're afraid of that word. And Bernie is the first guy. He's not like Obama, okay? He's not like Clinton. He say, hey, I'm socialist. Place like Quebec, it's work. You pay 52% on your tax, 15% on the sales tax, and people are okay to wait a little bit longer to make it more fair like Quebec. I'm a socialist. That's Bernie Sanders, the people, the revolution of the peoples, and that's my guy.
That's what I say to people who are waiting for cancer treatment in Canada and Quebec. I say, be patient. You know, you can't jump to the front of the line just because you're dying, esti.
No, tabarnak, là, listen, I know it's sad, okay, but I mean, it's Quebec. Half of Quebec has lung cancer because everybody smoke. You're gonna send them all, and you know, you can't do that. You only have so much money, you know, so you have to make that fair.
Oui, j'agree, là. Tu sais, la chose avec Bernie et Québec, c'est la même affaire. Parce que dans les États-Unis, tu as Bernie, et Bernie a dit, OK, on a beaucoup d'argent. We are very rich, so we spread it around. And Quebec, they go, we have Bombardier, you know, we have Quebecor, we have two big corporations, we have all that hydropower, we are rich.
Pratt and Whitney.
Pratt and Whitney, we have all these monies, so we should separate and stop spreading it around. Oh, wait, it's different than Bernie.
Oh, okay, I see what you're trying to pull that trick like that.
No, I'm figuring it out, look.
It's $2 because you're putting up something to make me look stupid because, you know, listen, I'm engineer, I'm not English is not my first language.
Okay, calme-toi.
Hey, I know what you're trying to do. You're gonna see about it, okay? You can do that from your studio in Queens.
It just seems like there's a double standard with Quebec where you guys think that you should be able to preserve your culture, but everyone else has to wash theirs down the toilet.
That's not the same thing. You know, that's bull. Every time I come on that program, that's bull. like that. You do that because you know, okay, it's not the same. The 1%, they have all the money in the country, and the Walmart is put people on welfare. They put their money in the island Cayman. That's not the same as...
Yeah, I got some bad news for you, Jian Ghomeshi. Not only are you wrong about this idea of spreading it around, you're wrong about Quebec being rich. 3 corporations does not a country make. You're a money pit of welfare. Go ahead and separate. We don't want you.
Okay, but that's it. You know, it's not... No, you say 2 things that's not right. We have some corporate... But it's not everybody who's 1%. It's... Okay, people might not be rich, but they're not rich all the same, okay? So that's why that's more fair. You may not... That's better like that. You don't want the big rich and people who's not rich.
But you see Quebec, the province, as a big rich. You see it as the 1% of provinces.
I see it, okay, as the culture of my French Canadian of Pure Land and my mother and my grandfather, okay? And we want to keep that. And we don't want to see about it with English place come and open their place with their apostrophe, where college, they're not supposed to have that, and make problem for the people who are here for a long time. See, you know what you're trying to do. I know you live in Montreal. You know it's more complicated, and you're making that sound, and you're making bullshit.
Je peux pas entendre. Il y a un problème avec la ligne. Je peux pas te voir sur la boîte. I don't know what's going on.
You can't see me on the...
No, je...
Looking for the perfect gift? Did you know the Rebel.media has a store? Make a statement with a t-shirt. Have your morning coffee in a Fearless Travel coffee mug. There's even an Ezra Levant bobblehead. It's a one-stop shop for the perfect gift. And don't forget to pick up something for yourself. Go to the Rebel.media/store to find out more.
Heave-hi-ho.
Well, I wanted to show you a gorgeous dog here.
Oh, geez, that looks like it's about half a genome away from a wolf.
Yeah, he's pretty close, eh? He loves the deer. He comes out with a leg almost every time I go for a walk out there. Comes prancing out with a big leg.
So you don't have to feed him? He just eats the wild?
He hasn't been eating a whole bunch of dry food lately. Yeah, he's taken quite a liking to the wild stuff. He's eating better than me, I gotta say.
Now, just to give some context here, folks at home, this is Steve Duran. You may know him as a musician, played in a bunch of bands in Montreal and Ottawa. He was in The Trapped and Melissa Oftermar's band, Oftermauer. And he has forgone the city and the big lights and the skyscrapers for the woods in rural Ontario.
Quebec, lad.
Oh,
That's
you're in Quebec. Now, your neighbors up there, are they English or French?
Yeah, there's a great little spot here. It's a German settlement, so it's all English. Little pocket of hosers over here. We got no Quebecers. Nothing wrong with them, but they're just not around. It's been a German settlement for a couple hundred years. This is one of the oldest farms in the area, actually. The old Burke farm. That's one of the original buildings from it.
Okay. That must be, what, 150 years old?
About that, yep.
Wow. Now, we correspond pretty regularly, and you were out gallivanting around through the woods, and you sent me a screen grab of a map. And I got to admit, I was pretty stunned to learn that there's a thing called Rapids.
Oh, yeah. I haven't made it up there yet, but I was quite shocked to see that on the map as well up there on the way to Maniwaki.
Can we pull up a picture of that? Can I tell you my theory about it?
Yeah, please.
This is my theory. So I think the cold, right? A lot of Canada, upstate New York. Maybe zoom in on that. I think that the cold, one of the few people who could handle it would be the Scots, the Scotch-Irish. They could handle that suffering. And so when they were coming up with names, they'd have a few whiskeys in them, and they just thought, ugh, how about Rapids, by the way? Just to amuse themselves.
Yeah, hell, I guess you'd have to look into who was over there back then and who named it and stuff, but that sounds pretty good to me, bud.
Yeah, let's go with that one. It must be weird if you're lost there and you're calling you're calling the local sheriff or someone. They go, "Well, where are you located exactly?" And you go, "Oh, we don't need to get into that. It's by some rapids." No, sir. Which rapids are you near? Oh my God! Why do we got to get into every single detail?
A lot of the guys around here call it African American Rapids.
Okay, last
They
point.
know what you're talking about.
Last point, quickly there, Steve. Would you recommend this life?
Absolutely, man. I basically cut out the middleman. I get my own power. I heat my own house with my. I got deer in the woods. I'm starting to hunt and growing a big garden. So I'm cutting out all kinds of middlemen. You know, why go somewhere to work to get money to pay for all this stuff when you can just go and get the stuff? That's about as simply as I can put it. And it feels real good. Check out my poles over there. I got 35 white pine down. You see these guys?
Oh my God, they're insane. What are those, 50 feet?
About 75.
Are you going to build a cabin with those?
Yeah, man. Big old log cabin. We got about we got all the lumber and all the logs to build quite the cabin up there on that hill.
You are a beast. Okay, last question.
Yeah, that's
As an attention whore, the only thing I would think I would miss is socializing. Do you get to socialize?
man, I've spent a lot of time alone. I don't mind it so bad. And now they got this thing called what is it there? The internet?
No, they don't.
That
What, you think you could talk to someone in New York City in the middle of the day for free? No way.
Yeah, I don't. If I need company, I got company. There's people coming up here all the time. A lot of people are getting interested in this kind of life, I gotta say. So it's nice to see. I'm here to share it and here to share my experiences and say you can all do it and you all be better for it.
It looks stunning. It looks like a painting.
You gotta come see, man.
Oh,
dude, this is actually why I did it. It's all about that.
Oh yeah. What do you got
I have
there?
40 kilometers of trails here.
40? How many cc's you got on that little bugger?
That's a KLR 650.
Oh,
It's a
nice.
classic.
That's a nice amount.
It's a little
there.
large.
Pretty
A
big.
little large for this terrain.
All right, Steve. We'd love to have you back as soon as possible and have fun out there. It looks like a blast.
Good stuff. Thanks, eh? Nice to chat.
Cheers.
Heave hi, ho.
Ladies and gentlemen, the author of The Way Back, which just came out on Encounter Books, a conservative imprint that is very brave. I've noticed their titles tend to be ballsy titles. And F.H. Buckley is here with his book, The Way Back, Restoring the Promise of America, with a beautiful picture of the Empire State Building stuck in the clouds. Why did you choose the Empire State Building?
Well, you know, the first time I came to New York from Saskatchewan, a kid of 8.
Can you aim the mic in closer there? Sorry.
Okay. So the first time I come, I'm 8 years of age, and I go to the Empire State Building.
Uh-huh.
And they got this deal where you put in 2 quarters and you record a song. Okay, so I do that, and I'm 8.
Mm-hmm.
I sing the only song I know, God Save the Queen.
Really?
It does not get much more Canadian than that.
Yeah. Well, I was born in England, and I became a Canadian citizen, I think, in '77. But you've got to put your hand over your heart and pledge allegiance to a huge painting of the Queen.
Yeah, right.
She's still the boss.
Totally, but you know, we got it better than the Brits in Canada because she only comes over like every couple of years.
Yeah.
More than that would be cloying.
Yeah.
Right.
She knows how to
Princess
spread it out.
Anne, I mean, let's not go there.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we did luck out with how much we get to see the Queen. Lovely lady.
No, every
I feel like
2
she'd be
years is-
fun to hang out
every
with.
2 years is really good. Will and Kate maybe every year.
Now,
That's it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So you were a Canuck, and
Dual. Yeah.
And
I'm
you
the
live-
kind of guy that Pat Buchanan hates.
right? Well, the thing I think of when I see your book is I'm reminded of another Canuck, sort of, Mark Stein.
Yeah.
And, you know, he
I
says,
think I'm a giddy optimist.
That's actually why I can only read his book in small doses, because I get suicidal. And one of the most haunting things he wrote
Subtitle
about.
for the book I wanted originally was "We Are So," but they,
They didn't like that.
they
No,
didn't like that.
he talks about the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building that were built in a year and a half during the Great Depression, and you just think, where's that kind of hubris?
I know.
Now, this is a Canadian show. This is How's It Going, eh?
Right.
And
I'm the Bay Street version.
you're the Bay Street version. I don't know what that means,
Okay.
but we'll run with it. What does a Canadian have, perspective-wise, that is advantageous to the American political spectrum?
Well, number one, we know a lot more about the United States than they do.
In what sense?
Uh,
Oh, in every sense.
As you see it from a distance and you observe it and you look through it and you admire it. But, there's great stuff about Canada and there's great stuff about the States. I moved down here. I moved from the best country in the world to the greatest country in the world. I like both.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of things I miss about Canada, and I think the reason I was personally driven out was the lack of entrepreneurial spirit. But did you disagree with that? You think it's better for businesses in Canada than in America?
I don't know stats for startups, but there are so many obstacles to getting ahead here. And I mentioned before, Canadians are a lot more mobile.
Right.
So what is it? The regulatory state is just smaller, right? Taxation is kind of a wash at this point. Actually, in terms of ease of doing business, as these things are recounted by the World Bank, we're about the same.
Okay.
In fact, Canada, I think, has a lot of advantages. So,
In what sense?
but you know what the big disadvantage?
Okay.
We don't have the markets, and that's a consequence of one really simple thing called U.S. imperialism.
Uh-huh.
So the Americans conquered a continent, and they had these great markets. They had this wonderful free trade zone. It was called the United States of America. And what did we have? We had Saskatchewan, okay? And it wasn't the same thing.
Right.
So there's a book out by a lady called Claudia Golden, The Race Between Science and Technology, where she says, look, the reason why America cleaned up is it made huge investments in education, and that paid off. But the only problem was the Canadians made huge investments in education, in the 20th century. So did the Kiwis, so did the Aussies. They didn't have the markets. So, they have this huge country.
Markets trump education.
Well, markets are the explanation. You need both, but it was the markets.
Huh. What is the way back? Can you just tell the Americans out there from a Canadian how they can save their country?
Yeah, well, it's a matter of going back to where we were. And, I mean, to be clear, where do we want to get to? We want to get to a mobile country. I mean, the America that we loved is a country of ebullience, of entrepreneurship, of energy, a can-do spirit, Yankee Doodle Dandy. We loved all that stuff in Canada, right? We totally got it. And then we realized, it's not quite that good. Things got in the way of people moving up. What got in the way was all the crud that the left imposed on American society. So bad, terrible K-12 schools, a horrible immigration system, a real terrible rule of law problem, regulatory state on steroids. By contrast, in Canada, we have a vastly better education system. I think the reason is competition, right? So you have parochial schools being supported by the states. In Montreal, I could have sent my child to English Catholic, French Catholic, French, Protestant, English Protestant, Jewish. They had all that. It was state supported. And that means competition. Immigration, I mean, everybody points the Canadian system as the best in the world. Like anybody
Even now with all the Somalian refugees in Ottawa?
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, look, I guess the interesting question is, why is immigration not an issue in Canada? Canada's 20% foreign born. Australia's 25. America's about 13, 14. It's a huge issue here. It's not really an issue in Canada. I mean, nobody in Parliament was debating Syrian refugees. So it's not a political issue.
Because Justin Trudeau said we're pulling in 17,000 no matter what you say.
Well, but they could have objected. They could have made an issue. They don't, because Canadians are basically happy with the system. They're horrified by the system in the States. What's the difference? The difference is in general, you bring in people in Canada who are going to add to the Canadian economy and bring jobs to Canada. So if you do all that and then you take in some Syrian refugees, you can do that, right? You can do it because you've kind of paid your dues in terms of free market principles. So a little bit of surplus charity works, whereas it doesn't work here. And here, it's particularly scandalous they don't bring in Syrian refugees. Why? Because they broke it, right? In other words, the problem in Syria is a function of American foreign policy. Crazy foreign policy under W, a total retreat under Obama. They're like a kid in a toy store that broke something and then walked away from it. Shameful. Okay.
Bad combination.
Bad combination. And the Canadian system was really neat. And you know what's amazing about Canada is the private sponsors. And the private sponsors, like who are these guys? Mostly they're Orthodox, right? I mean, a lot of the Orthodox churches, they're bringing in Christians. And they discriminate, right? And Obama says we can't discriminate. Most of the Syrian refugees here abroad are young males who are Muslim. And if you looked at the videos of the refugees coming to Canada, we're talking families with kids. They look, like huggable. They look great, right? And a lot of them were Christians. Obama said it couldn't be done. Somehow the Canadian sponsors found a way to do it. They discriminate. Hey, so does ISIS.
Right. So you think that Canada, the refugee problem isn't as bad there because they're more predisposed to bringing in Christians than America is?
It's a matter of good faith. Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of good faith. I mean, Obama, I think you could just sort of more or less assume the worst.
Yep.
Right? Or policies that are basically run by CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations.
Right.
Okay. Those.
How are we letting Justin Trudeau get away with all this? Or are you talking about pre-Trudeau?
Well, I'm talking about Justin, and he's a stud muffin. What can I say?
Okay, last question. Karl Marx is brought back from the grave.
Yes.
He does an Alexis de Tocqueville thing where he analyzes everything about America and everything about Canada today, culturally. Right. Which does he like better?
Well, first of all, what he says to Tocqueville is, I got it right. Here's the thing. Marx had a real problem with the United States. And the thing about the United States for Marx was, under Marxist theory, America should have been the first place to go communist because it was the most advanced capitalist country. Mm-hmm. So he's embarrassed. I mean, It's obviously not going communist. And his explanation is it's not happening because you have very fluid social classes. Okay? Now we do not have very fluid social classes. Instead, we have an aristocracy in America. We have a new class on top that dominates our policies and constrains our choices. And when that happens, says Marx smilingly, you get Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Right? So
Bernie Sanders is proof that Marx was right.
Well, Bernie Sanders is complicated. I think Bernie Sanders is a revelation of something new that's going on, which is a right-left axis is being displaced by a virtue-corruption axis. And that's the same axis in 1776. 1776, the patriots are looking at Britain and they're seeing total corruption. And they say, we can do better, right? We've read our Plutarch and, we believe in Roman virtue and all of that and the Roman Republic. We can do better. So that was strictly virtue versus corruption. And Bernie Sanders is totally virtue versus Hillary.
And the way back is to get away from Marx and back to the free market. Is that it?
That's pretty much it. Yep.
Wonderful.
Socialist ends, capitalist means.
Couldn't agree more. Ladies and gentlemen, F.H. Buckley, check out his book, The Way Back. This is a Canadian man who is over on this side and has an all-new angle because when you're a traveler, when you're mobile, you have perspective.
Yeah, right.
Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, hey, you take care. Good to see you.
We've heard you loud and clear. You can't get enough Canadian conservative news and opinion. Why not check out our blog? It's all your favorite conservative bloggers together on a page called The Megaphone. Go to therebel.media/themegaphone or click on the Megaphone menu from our main page to check it out.
Heave high, ho.
Jason in Hamilton. Jason, are you there? Oh, I got to click on you. Sorry, Jace. Jason from Hamilton, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How is it going, A?
Oh, it's going.
Wow, you're an exciting caller. Is the pace going to increase at any point during this call?
It can, yeah.
Okay, what do you got to say?
I'm just responding to your tweet.
Okay.
That there was a topic at hand.
Yes, I know. I see you have Ghomeshi written down here. You want to talk about Jian Ghomeshi?
Yeah.
I got a bad feeling that he's innocent, and I hate it when my enemy prospers. But you look at the evidence, and I hate the hypocrisy of the CBC, and I love it when liberals get hoisted by their own petard. But this really does reek of a guy who was into rough sex, at least with that Trailer Park Boys chick. And she just decided she wanted to be mattress girl. She wanted to be the poster child for domestic abuse, as I believe she put it. I think she said, I want to be the David Beckham of domestic abuse. And so you read that and you go, if I'm totally honest with myself, Jian's looking pretty innocent here.
Yeah, he's probably quite a douchebag, right? But that doesn't mean he's guilty of what he's being accused of in that sense. I know someone that works at the CBC, and when they heard about it, they were not too surprised because it's kind of creepy, but it's still with all the witnesses lying and leaving things out, it raises a lot to be questioned.
Feminists seem to have a lot of trouble understanding this. It's not illegal to be a creep. It is illegal to rape. It is not illegal to have consensual rough sex. And
yeah.
I want these people to I'm glad the left is experiencing this kind of lynching, this kind of witch hunt, so they can see how damaging it is. I mean, to a lot of people, Jian will always be that horrible rapist, murderer, creep, not murderer, but rapist. And it's healthy for them to experience it. But in the end of the day, we always have to stick to the truth, even when our enemy prospers. And the truth is that rape has become redefined, and it's starting to affect how normal people have sex. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm married, but I couldn't imagine being single right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm recently single at the end of a marriage. And even going online, you have to make it pretty clear that you're not just a creep looking to send dick pics or whatever.
Yeah, there's that. And also, when you actually do get a girl, especially if she's young, if she's in her 20s and she's been brainwashed by all this social justice warrior stuff, I would be petrified. I'm going to tell my sons it's not worth it. Only date cougars. Thanks for calling, Jason. Let's talk to John in Vancouver. John, are you there? Are you there, John?
I'm here.
How is it going, A?
Gavin, I gotta take a step back.
Uh-oh.
I think I've perpetrated a microaggression towards your entire audience.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not calling from Vancouver, and I'm not even Canadian, and I want to apologize for that, and so I can make sure that your listeners can find a safe spot for themselves.
Yeah, that's not good enough. What we're going to need you to do is go on an entire apology tour. Do you remember that guy, Brett Ratner, who said apologies are for at a screening for his movie Tower Heist? He apologized to the LGBT community. They claim that wasn't enough. He had to tour the country apologizing from coast to coast. So because you deceived us and pretended to be Canadian, we want a Vancouver to Prince Edward Island and back apology tour.
And I felt like I was under the gun. I had to say where I was from, and Vancouver was the only place I had been to several years ago. I was going to come up with a total Canuck accent, and then I started feeling guilty that, hey, I'm impersonating and disparaging Canadians in a bad way.
Yep.
I don't know how to handle it, and
yep.
I don't know how to move forward with it. And your guidance really is really needed at this time.
You know what? I'm not even going to say you're welcome, because that would empower you too much and it would take away from your apology. I want you to sit not just in the guilt that you feel for what you just did, but the guilt of your ancestors and everyone else who is involved in not just Canada and America, but the entire Western world. You have prospered from that genocide.
I don't know how to begin to make
you know what?
separation.
It's not, we're hanging up on him. Because even giving him a voice is giving another white male a voice, and we've had too many. You know what? Giving me a voice is too much of a voice. I'm going to stop talking.
Best man in Ottawa was Mufferaw Joe. Mufferaw Joe. Big Joe Mufferaw, Big Joe